Well, today the Fed raised interest rates by a quarter of a point, and that was really not unexpected. And so hopefully the market adjusts appropriately and will not overreact to that. But I thought this would be a great platform. That announcement would be a great platform to talk about real estate and provide this update. The last few weeks I've gotten some great feedback from a lot of you about these updates that I send out, and it's great to hear it. Everything I'm hearing, people really enjoy it. So I hope I'm providing you the information that you want. And you can always drop me a line and say, gee, can you talk more about this or that? So please do. I really enjoy doing these, so I love hearing from you. So let's talk about our marketplace and what's happening. Nationally, when you look at demand for real estate, obviously it's been impacted by interest rates. We've had this interest rate climb all through this year. And what certainly has happened, we just had our recent announcement by the Fed, and that's going to continue to impact, sales because it's going to impact demand, which impacts sales. And the reason is obviously because it affects affordability. It just makes those mortgages go higher, so fewer people can qualify. Right now, you need about $75,000 of income to qualify for a home that's about $250,000. So just think about that. You've got to have at least an income of $75,000 to qualify so you can get a $250,000 house. That's where our marketplace is right now. And when you look at prices, let me just talk locally about prices. $250,000 home. There's not a lot of those around. There's certainly, you find those in condos, but in a freestanding single family home, boy, there's not a lot of $250,000 homes. The average price of a median price of a home in Portland Metro Marketplace is about $550,000. That's about the average price of a home in Milwaukee. In Lake Oswego, it's around $800,000. And I think in Gresham, it's about $470,000, $480,000. So that'll give you a perspective on the prices of homes in our area, but what's happening here. So let's go back nationally and talk about our demand side of what's happening in the marketplace. So we see interest rates have really impacted demand. Also, you've seen migration trends have really impacted demand. One of the really kind of a fun fact for you here, this last year, when you look at the states that really gained population, that is people moving from state to state, more people moved into Florida and Texas than any other state. And Florida was by far the leader. So we have more people that are migrating within the country, or the most people are going into Florida and then Texas. The most people leaving a state, moving out, and that is going to be California and New York. Maybe no big surprise there, but that's where the trends are. And that's how people are moving within the country. And that certainly impacts demand. Another thing that certainly impacts demand is you look at population growth. Although that's in some ways kind of a misnomer in a way, because when you look at population growth in the United States, we have not had much population growth in this country for a number of years. As a matter of fact, last year, our population growth was less than 0.5%. Now I'll say that again. Last year, our population growth in the United States was less than 0.5%. And when you peel that number back even more, about half that number was because of new births, and half that number was because of new people coming into the country. So our population is relatively stagnant, and the small increase that we are getting is about half from new births, half from outside migration. I suspect this year we'll probably see more from outside migration, and that trend will probably continue, but it's at a very low, nominal level. We're really not growing much population-wise as a country. So that's impacting demand. Another thing that's impacting demand is that financial institutions and their underwriting practices about requiring higher levels of credit, more financial stability before you can buy a home is required. And so that, focuses making funds available for folks that certainly can afford to buy a home and stay in a home. So right now we're seeing credit scores where people can finance to buy a home in excess of 750. Well, that's way, way, way higher than it was back when we had our housing collapse back in 2008. So financial regulations and underwriting standards have changed a lot, and that's certainly impacted demand. And the last thing, that's impacted demand, certainly are prices. And I talked about, you need $75,000 of income to buy a $250,000, house. Well, the fact of the matter is, prices have continued to escalate. And more specifically, when you look at this year, 2023, we had prices go down starting, when interest rates started to go up at the end of last year, and you saw prices start to drift down a little bit. Well, the fact of the matter is, they have recovered since then. And so when you look at prices right now, they are at or very close to their highs when they were back in June of 2022. So I'll say that again. Prices right now have largely recovered from their highs where they were in June of last year. When you look at where prices are, the median price of a home in the Portland metro marketplace is down about 3% from where it was in June. Nationally, it's only down about 1%. So very close to where it was. So those are the kind of things that are, impacting the demand side. On the supply side, we just have no inventory. We just have no inventory. Nationally, the inventory is running at about 3 months. When you look at where a market should be when it's in balance, a good number of buyers and sellers and transactions taking place, you look for a 5 or 6 month supply of standing inventory for a balanced market. Nationally, it's 3%. In the Portland metro area, it's 2%, or it's 2 months. So that is really important. So we just don't have a lot of inventory. And the biggest reason for that is the lack of new listings. We don't have any new listings coming online. You don't have any new listings coming online. And a lot of reasons for that is because, one, people got locked into these low rates when they refinanced on their homes, and they don't want to leave that great rate they have. And so they're not selling their home. They want to stay in their home because they've got a good rate. The other reason you have that is the level of new building is so low. What's happened with new building is that, inflation really impacted their costs, supply chain issues really impacted their delivery dates, and obviously their costs. And so new building has had a struggle getting back up to the level it was. As a matter of fact, new building really has not recovered since the crash of 2008. And I think it's going to take a number of years before new building can really catch up and start meeting the demand in a meaningful way. It's just taken them that long to get back online, back up to the level of production that they were before. So that's certainly impacting it. In our marketplace, in the Portland metro marketplace, we've seen changes in regulations, and hopefully in order to stimulate more development of single-family homes. We saw that start in the Portland area and Multnomah County, then spread to the state. And I think the jury is still out to see how much that will really promote home building. Now, I hope it does, but as I said, it's still early to tell about how much that's really impacted our home building. But so that's an issue to consider about our supply. So, to sum what all this information means, we are still supply constrained. We have a supply shortage very clearly. Demand has certainly been impacted by interest rates. Migration patterns certainly have impacted, what the demand is in particular regional markets. But I think there is no question in my mind that prices have recovered from their dip of the earlier months. So we're going to continue to see, I think we're going to see reasonable price appreciation in the Portland metro area, probably anywhere from 2 to 5%. I think we're going to see continued limited supply. So that would argue that there's no real advantage for folks to wait to buy a home. I'd move on it now. I'd make that happen now because they're not going to get cheaper. I think that if you found the right situation, you should make something happen. Also, with interest rates, I don't even want to try and predict what interest rates are going to do. So I don't think there's much value in waiting to see if interest rates are going to drop anytime soon in a big way. I think the reason you're moving probably is because you've had a change in your situation and you need to do something. I would make that happen. I'm happy to help you make that transition. I'm happy to connect you with the right kind of mortgage brokers to get the best rate and the best conditions that you can. But I think if you have a change in your life, you need to respond to it. I can help you do that, and I hope this information has been helpful. Thanks.